Hi everyone, it's Nat here. Hope you're all doing well. I am on to finish this envelope book that I've been making. So in the second video that I did for this, we finished covering everything and creating all of our pockets and flips and that. So now it's just a case of filling up the pockets and the belly band and that, and adding maybe a few decorations as well. So this, of course, I made for the hashtag Mashup Joey challenge. Now that's Joey Card Maker. So he has a challenge going for 6 months that started in July. These are the July papers that I'm using that he's put up as a freebie in his Ko-fi. They are so pretty. I love these. He's now got his August lot up there, which are equally as gorgeous. So do go check him out and grab him if you want to have a go. So the idea is to make whatever you like using his papers and mashing them up with whatever you have in your stash. So I decided to make this little envelope book. So there'll be a link to Joey's Ko-fi down below so you can go and have a look, and also his Etsy where all of his other awesome kits are. So I had heaps of fun making this. I've been wanting to revisit playing around with envelopes like this, and it was heaps of fun. I have that many envelopes. You'll probably see a lot more of this sort of thing on my channel here and there. But yeah, they're great to use to put things together, especially if you want to do something that's sort of no-sew as such. So we'll get on with it and we'll start filling this up. So I have here the journal cards from the Floral Grace freebie. And I've printed them at 75% just to make them a little bit smaller. And I've just cut one set of them out that I want to make a little booklet out of to slip into one of my pockets. So just fold it in half, just checking that it's going to fit in there. It's the windowed pocket that we did on the back page of the little booklet. So I want to cover the inside of the digital there because it's so white, and I am using some of my stenciled book page. I'm just making sure that I run the stencil down the end there where I didn't quite get it. So I'll apply my glue to the digital and then I'll lay that down onto the underside of the stenciled page. I know there's a little part that doesn't quite get covered, but because I ink everything up, you don't really notice that. You can see the white poking out there on the left-hand top. And just trim the excess off. Of course, ink around all the edges. Now I want some pages for the inside of my little booklet. So I'm just laying my cover on top of whatever papers that I want to use and tracing around them to get an approximate size. Thought that would be the easiest way of doing it. Got some of my purple acrylic dyed papers there, so I'll use some of that as well. I've got one of the digi pieces. And again, because the other side of the digital's so white, I'm just doing a little bit of stenciling on that. I was going to try and continue the pattern and match the flowers up, but it doesn't work. So fold them all in half. Just make sure they all fit in and put them together the way I like the look. And of course, when you stick them all inside of each other, some pages poke out more than others. So I decide that I'll just cut the edges down a bit because they do poke out of the cover a little bit. Just using my craft knife and my metal ruler to do that with. I'm just using the lines on my mat there to make sure that I get it sort of straight. And I repeat the process with the top just a little bit to make sure that when I sew it in, I don't have the pages sticking out the top or bottom at all. Now, if you're new at making journals or anything and you're scared of doing your pamphlet stitch for your journals, I strongly suggest that you give it a go making a little booklet like this first. Really helps you get comfortable with the process of doing a pamphlet stitch prior to trying to do it with lots of pages in a bigger cover. So I had my scrap cotton tub and I had some purple cotton in there, so I'm using that to sew my pamphlet stitch. So I just go down through the middle and then I poke a hole through the inside there, but I take it back up through the back. It's just easier to poke the holes downwards than back up through the spine. So down through the middle, up through one end, and then right over to the other end and down, then back up through the middle. Then you make sure that your two ends are either side under that middle piece of cotton. And then tie a double knot. And it's all put together then. So I'm inking a few of the pages, and I don't want to be too pedantic about it, but just a couple of them like the digital page and that. So the back is going to show through the window, so I decided just to stamp these lavender stamps on so they show through the window. Now I've got some scrap material here and I'm going to use that to put it around the spine of my little booklet. And I'm going to use that to create a tab. We need a tab on the little booklet because it fits quite snug in the pocket and it is hard to pull out. So I'm using the material, but I'm lining that with some old book page and that'll make it nice and sturdy for when I'm pulling it in and out. I think it adheres much more secure to the paper cover of the book as well than the material would on its own. So I just stick those together and then I can fold them in half and that makes a nice little tab for the book. I have no shortage of purple fabrics and that to go with this. When I started crafting, I wanted to decorate the house and I was going to go for a sort of goth theme with purple and blacks and that, which I never got around to doing, but I did collect a bit of purple fabric. So you can see that it fit in really nice and the tab pokes out so that we could pull it out now. So now I have one of these cards that you get when the postie has a package for you and had to take it back to the post office. And I've just cut a little bit of that off and it slips in our little belly band nicely. So I'm just folding the top over a bit to create that flap there. And that's what will hold it in our belly band. Like so. I want to make a little booklet with that to give us some extra journal space. So I'm cutting out one of the gorgeous pictures from the freebie to decorate it with. and that will sit on that top flap. You can see it's not quite the right size, so I've got another piece of the freebie that I'll layer it on, and I want to make that about the same size as the back of the card there. So just measured against it to find where to rip. So I'm just inking around the card a bit in case we see bits poking out under the digital. So I'm applying the glue to the top flap there to stick digital background onto. I'm just making sure that it lines up with the card underneath so that we don't see the card much. And it's lined up nicely there. So now I'll stick the picture on top. So I found the card when I folded the top and inked it, and that was a bit fragile, so I'm creating a hinge with one of the envelope offcuts. I'm going to use that just to reinforce where we've folded the card there. I do ink so that when we flip it up we might see that hinge part there, so I inked in the middle so that we don't get just the white of the envelope. So I'm sticking one side down to the back of the card, and then the other side will be stuck to that top flap. And hopefully that will reinforce it all nicely. Was going to put fabric over the top there, but the lace is less bulky than the fabric and I love the way it looks, so I decided to use this little piece of lace up the top. So I'll stick one side down, trim it off, flip it over and apply glue to stick the other side down, and you can probably see what I've done wrong here. And it wasn't sticking too well because the card is quite glossy, which is really fortunate because of course I need to cover it before I stick it down. So I get another piece of the freebie here to back the back of our flip book with. I made so many mistakes with this. Yeah, and then realised it was probably time I had a break from crafting for a little bit, but it didn't actually help because I made some mistakes after that as well. Now I can stick that back cover piece down, and then we can go ahead and stick the lace down on the other side. And it sticks a lot better to the paper there. So now we've got to work on the inside of our little booklet. So again, I want to cover the background there. Again, just using the walnut stain around the edges. I decided to ink the card as well underneath, just in case. Because we've been ripping the papers on both sides, they're not going to match up with each other perfectly. So if any bits stick out, then having the ink on all the different sides helps. So then we've got to cover the top, and for that I've chosen my acrylic dyed paper. Because it's a matte up challenge, I did try to use a few different things in this. I've got the book page, I've got my acrylic papers and laces. I've got some of my botanical pictures. So that's the cover of our little booklet. Pretty well finished. Now to add some pages for the inside. So I'm just grabbing some of the scraps from around the place that seem to fit really well and ripping the bottom off. I was going to cut the top off of that digital piece, but then I realised I could flip that over and use it as a hinge, which would work well for what I'm doing if I didn't stuff it up. So the idea would have been, the way I've made these before, is to stick the papers to the top of that hinged piece, not the back hinge. So I was meant to do that. So I was going to use the book page for one of the pages, but I didn't really like the way it looked. It'd be quite fragile as well, so I ended up choosing another end book page, a blank piece, rather than the text page for the fourth piece there. So I stencil that piece because it's a digital and very white. So this is where I make the boo-boo. I'm meant to tack these pieces to the top flap, not this back hinge piece. The back hinge piece should be what we stick to the back of a cover. And that way we can lift it up and down using the hinge. We can lift all the pages up and down. But because I'm sticking them to that back hinge, that isn't going to work. So I do take this away and sew the pages on, just to make sure they stay on well. So I should have sewed them onto the top piece. Okay, I did make a boo-boo when I was putting this together. I think it'd be really simple, but I like to make things difficult. So the idea was that I should have sewn these pages. I made a hinge out of this top piece. I should have sewn these under pages to the front piece up here, rather than to the back piece here. Now I realised that before I sewed, but I'd already stuck them together, so I thought I'd just go with it and try and figure it out. The reason for that is I was meant to use this piece here as a hinge, which I stuck to this bottom part, and then we'd be able to completely flip over a little booklet to write under here or stick something underneath. Doesn't really matter, but I thought we would fix that. So yeah, the idea is to sew the pages to the front piece so the whole lot will lift up. So of course, because I'd stuck it down to the back piece, that no longer is a hinge. Oops, I thought I was doing so well too. So what I've done is grabbed another bit of envelope that I've inked up in that, and I'm going to use this to create a hinge. So I think I will stick this over the top like so, and then cover it, of course, and then use this piece like I should have used that piece as a hinge. So it'll flip up like that. So I've got another hinge piece here that I made out of the envelope again to rectify the problem, and I'm sticking over the top of the top flap there, and that creates a hinge at the back with the other side. And I used my tacky glue, which stays pretty wet. Then I use my fabric glue to apply to the back hinge piece there to stick it to the back cover. Then what I do is go and place it down too low. I want it up a bit higher, so I decide to pull it back up straight away, and it rips in half. I think it's, as I said, I think it was a bit wet from the inking, and then I used the wet tacky glue and didn't let it dry before I used the other glue to put that back hinge on the back cover. So I create another hinge out of a start book page there. It'll be a bit sturdier. So yes, had a few whoopsies with this one, but problem solved well enough, I think. Though it did add a bit of extra bulk. So again, sticking the one half of my hinge over the top, and that leaves the back half of the hinge so it can be flipped up. I mean, you don't have to do it like this, you know, it's just the way that I had in my head to do it, so I sort of have to do it that way. And you'll see when I show you why I do it that way. We'll have a flip through at the end of this tutorial process. So you can flip those little pages up, and then you can flip the whole little booklet piece up to access the back cover nicely if you want to work on that. So I'm using offcuts of the digital pages just to cover up my hinges now, which adds even more bulk. And I've just got to cover where I've sewn there because it's a bit white and stark. So crisis averted. So there I can slip my book in now because I've let all the glue dry properly. And I can slip my little booklet in. So I just slip the back cover down through the belly band. Then we can access our flip up pages that way. So I have one of the tags here from the Floral Grace kit on freebie. And I want to put it in that big pocket that we've got in the flip up, but it won't fit being a tag like that. So I'm cutting it down to make a journal card. Just ink around the edges. That hides the fact that I've cut it down. And that fits really nicely in my little pocket. Then we want something for the little tuck spot there as well. So I wasn't sure if the big circle was going to fit in there, so I cut it out of some end book page first and then cut it out of the digital, and it fits perfectly. So now I'm sticking both of them together to make it nice and sturdy. Looking for what I want to decorate it with, and I decide on one of the beautiful little butterflies, which I fussy cut out. Now I have this piece of vellum. It's a pearl vellum, pearlized, I suppose you'd say. I did stamp my lavender on it, but I did it with distress ink, so of course it didn't really adhere to the or soak into the vellum very well, and sort of just smudged off, which is probably good because I didn't like it that much anyway. But I still stick the vellum down because I like the look of it, and I've got a little bit of lace there that I've cut out to stick on. I need to ink around my butterfly to get any white bits. Then I found some words to put on. Needed something else. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to add, so I hunted through my words and I found some that will be good to use. Can't remember what they say and I can't quite read it at the moment. Forgot to bring my glasses in as usual. So then I can stick the butterfly down and then follow with the words. Initially I tried sticking them with the tacky glue onto the lace and they didn't stick, so I'm using my fabric glue to stick those on. It's funny because the tacky glue will stick the lace to the paper quite well, but it won't stick this paper to the lace. Just depends. You use what works. They're both excellent glues. I use them the most out of anything, but yeah, they've each got their purposes. So once I've finished putting it together, I just add a hole and an eyelet. Just flattening out the back of my eyelet there. I'm using some of my fabric, just ripping it down to get a nice strand of it. Putting that through the hole, and then I just tie some of my purple cotton around it a couple of times and double knot that at the back to hold my little topper on. And slip that into the little pocket. So next I'm making a journal card for the little tuck spot there. And I had that piece of the freebie which fits really nicely, so I thought I'll just use that. And I want to use this scrap of my botanical because they're beautiful pictures, and even though it's not the full flower, it's really good to be able to still use the little bits and pieces. I'm also ripping a bit of my stenciled book page off. I get too lazy to go looking for things to use, so I just look on my desk at the scraps usually when I get to the end of a project. A bit of my lace. That way you've got less to put away in the end, hopefully. I don't know, looking at my desk, I think I've got a big job ahead of me. So I ink around the paper pieces. Then I've got to back the journal card onto some old book page. It's my favourite way of making them more sturdy if you haven't noticed watching me previously. That little square there that came off of the element pieces from the freebie. And I think that looks nice on this journal card as well. Keeping them pretty simple on that. We don't want to add too much extra bulk. That's why I did the little booklets first, because I knew they'd be quite bulky. So I thought we'll get those in and see how much space we've got left for the rest, and then we'll keep the rest pretty simple. And between it all, there's heaps of journaling space in this little booklet. Finish it off with a bit of my lace. Just using my vellum to press the lace on so it doesn't stick to my fingers and come back up. I'd forgotten to ink around the actual journal card before I put the lace on. So you can see that fits really nicely in that pocket. So I've got a bit of my acrylic dyed paper there, and I'm just adding these nice corner stamps. That's going to be a neat little journal spot, which I think sits really nicely under my little flip up. So I did add that, which you'll see a bit later. So now I want to make another little journaling card. So I've got the digital background there, and I have a bit there that I ripped out of one of the window pieces. We covered the window envelope with the digital, and I had to rip that bit out of where the window is. You can see I cut in the middle of it with my knife. But I thought I don't want to waste it, so I'm going to use that, and I can stick stuff over it so you can't actually see the cuts, but you still get to see the colour behind. It's a little tag bit that come off the element page. I punched a hole where there would be a hole in the little tag, but the hole was like way big and it looks awful, so I'm going to layer my butterfly just over where it looks bad. Tricks of the trade. I hate wasting bits of that, so if I can try and make them work, then yeah, I will. So I use these pieces to cover up where I cut the digital when I was ripping it out of the window. So very simple journal card, but we need something on there that's going to show through the window of the pocket that we're putting it in. So again, I look at the words that I've got printed out there. Completely forgot to ink around this. I think it's the only thing I forgot to ink in the end and stick down. I hate it when I do that. I think we all do that and hate it. So I'm making a tab for it so it's easy to get in and out. And I decided just to use my tab punch on one of the digital pieces. So just stick one side down first and then add glue to the other side and stick it all together like that. See if it fits in. You can see the butterfly and the embellishments there through the window. So now we'll do the decoration of the cover. I was going to do more with this, but I left it pretty simple. I might add a word or something to the little label piece that we have, but I'm not sure what I want to do yet. And this video ended up heaps long, so I didn't go overboard with embellishing or anything, because the main idea is to finish it off. So hopefully it helps if anyone does follow along. And then you can add whatever embellishment you like yourself. So these two pieces are off the embellishment page from the Purple Passion freebie. They are gorgeous. So you can see the tag in the window there. That is from the Floral Grace kit. We put that in right at the start just to see if it would fit and everything when I first created the little envelope book. So just prepping a bit of fabric to put around the spine of a little booklet. Remembering that when I first covered the envelopes, I think that was my first video, I cut the piece that covered the back of it the wrong length so that we have the envelope there showing a fair bit. So I make sure that there's enough fabric to cover that. I love that back page that Joey created. It is gorgeous. There are some kits and papers and that you get that you know that you'll use over and over again, and this is one of those for me. So I thought I'd use some of this pink lace, just a bit of a different colour, but of course I don't want it gathered, so I thought I would cut it off. And that looks really nice there. It's also nice and thin to be able to put on the inside of the booklet. Must be work knockoff time because all I hear is cars going past non-stop. It's not too busy where I live, except for school, when school starts, and work knockoff. I'm cutting this little flower out of that nice thin lace just to add a bit of embellishment to the lady there. Again, it just won't create too much bulk, which is great. I'm embellishing one of my purple pages. I want to use those, I think they're hydrangeas. Decided to put it on the lighter purple page. Looks a bit better there. And then I have this tiny scrap of my fabric that was just hanging around on the desk. It almost fits perfectly, so I thought, stuff, I'm going to just whack it there. Don't mind my use of the English language. I'm a bogan at heart. So love this purple flower that's on this page, so I thought I would fussy cut that out to decorate the other purple background. And then I grab a couple of scraps there just to put underneath so that it makes the flower stand out a little more. This has been such a fun project, making this little booklet up. There's something about purple and green that really speak to my soul. So this is the tag that's in the front window, and I thought I would just ink it up and add a topper to it now. Doing all the little finishing touches. So I've got the top bit of the lace that we cut off from, you know, it was gathered. So that top bit is quite thick and I didn't want it in the booklet, but I thought I would use it as the topper for this tag. And again, I'm just tying some cotton around it to hold it on. Okay, I've completely decimated my desk here and I'm not even going to bother cleaning it up to finish this film. It's getting late, so I thought I better stop there. There's heaps more we could do to decorate this, which I might do in the future, but I thought I would leave it there and keep it simple for now. So this is our little envelope book. I'll probably grab a bit of my seam binding, probably my avocado dyed seam binding to do a journal closure, as it is a little fat for a 4-page book. But I did want to add heaps of journaling space to this. Now I did have an issue with my filming, which I'm very sorry about. I did go to my computer when I think it's starting to get full and I've done a bit. I go and take the videos off, then come back, do some more, go and take the videos off. That way it keeps it empty enough, because once it gets full, it just stops filming. And I've been doing really good at that lately, and I did go out and do that today, but for some reason it didn't delete the videos unless I accidentally copied and pasted. Usually I cut and paste and that deletes them off of my iPad, but this time it didn't work with both lots, so I had to manually delete them and everything. So it did fill up at one stage and I lost a whole lot of my filming, I think. However, the things that I filmed were real simple, and you will see them as I do a flip through. So if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me down below. Always happy to answer. So you know that I didn't make this piece big enough to cover, so I have added this fabric now, and that has covered where the digital didn't cover. Looks much better. I was going to add layers to this too, but I don't think it needs it. Really love the colour with the digitals there. They're just beautiful. So that is the cover. I might add a word or something there when I can figure out what one to add. We've got a beautiful tag in here that's from the Floral Grace kit, or Floral Grace freebie, I should say, because that's one of his freebies as well. And you saw that I added the stencil book page in all of, well, most of the windows as a background, so it's not just the envelope in the windows. Used his awesome ephemera. I just love these papers. The colours are amazing. So I might have to take this out because the topper I put on is a bit thick. It might be hard to get this off to show you. Not that you have to take it off, but I will to show you. Now that, of course, was the edge of my lace here. I cut the edge off to use some of the lace, and I don't like wasting bits and pieces, so I use that as the topper for that tag. So this is a little booklet that we made together, which slips in a little belly band. And I did tell you that I made a big boo-boo with that, and because of that it made it a little bulkier than it's meant to be up here, which is a shame. But if you do it without making the boo-boos I did, it would be a couple of pieces of paper up here thinner. So you open that up, and you can open that one up all the way, and then these you can just flick through to use, and then that opens all the way, and I covered up some of my boo-boo there. So it's a nice little writing spot. You could add some more pictures and that to it, and it just slips into our belly band like so, carefully. Now usually I like to sew my belly bands on just to ensure that they don't come off in a hurry. It is holding fine for the moment, but that's just a thought. I didn't want to have to do too much sewing with this project, so I didn't bother. And I would usually probably sew it onto the paper before I stick it down onto the envelope in that case. So that's made it quite thick, but as I said, I did want a lot of journaling space in here. So this is a little flip out, and it has this journal card that we made together. I ended up adding one of my illuminated letters to that. Slips in that little tuck spot. Still a lot of room there to either journal, add some more embellishment. Journaling spot that I just stenciled. There's a flip up there. I added a bit more journaling space here. Sort of hidden journal spot. Love this beautiful lady. I think I've got a bit of glue on her. Whenever I take it off, it takes the print off. A little bit of lace that I cut out, little lace flower. Thought that would be, not add too much bulk using the thin lace there. Made this little round journal card. And I added some words, the butterfly from the freebies, a bit of vellum there and some lace. That slips in that pocket. And then this is one of the floral grace tags as well. And I just cut the top off to make some journaling cards with those so that they'd fit in the spots that I wanted to put them. Got to wiggle this one around a bit. There we go. So the next page is just decorative, and you can write on the background there. Fussy cut one of the flowers out of one of the pages. And then I've got some of my botanicals that I've used in this as well. Another beautiful picture there. There's a pocket there which has a journal card that we made, and I put a tab on that because we've got room here. The tab fits, so the journal card fits in there quite snug, but we can pull it out with the tab, and the tab doesn't overhang too much there. And you can see the butterfly through the window there. Then we've got this little tuck spot here. That's another one of the Floral Grace tags, and this journal card was from the Floral Grace kit as well, but they go really nicely with the Purple Passion freebies. So just a plain journaling card here, and I added offcut of this page because I forgot there was a window behind, so that shows through the window. You can journal there. That slips in like that. Oops, I think I put it in. Is it too far? Yeah. Let me pull it even a little bit more. And then you can see that digital through there, which looks lovely. So you can journal here. Nice decoration. There's another journal card. That's a picture from the Purple Passion freebies. And then just some of my stenciled book page underneath. Then in here is a little booklet. So I've made a tab with some paper underneath just to make it sturdy, and some of my fabric so that you can pull this out because it fits in there quite snug. Made this a tad thick. I should have done one less page, I reckon, but there's heaps of writing space in there. So I've used the journal cards and I printed them at 75% to make this little booklet so that it fit into my pocket, and that's from the Floral Grace kit. I have so much trouble saying Floral Grace. Don't know why, but so lots of pages in there. It's got my acrylic dyed purple pages. It's got my stenciled book page. It's got end page of a book. Beautiful kit page that I've stenciled on. So yeah, lots of writing space. Then I stamped on the back of it so that that shows through the window at the back of this. Let's see if I can get it in there all right. Like that. And there's our stamping there. So that was so much fun. So thank you so much, Joey, for the awesome freebies. Had heaps of fun with that. The colours are right up my alley. I'm definitely going to use those pages again in the future. Heaps of fun putting all these envelopes together and making this little booklet. So don't forget to add the hashtag MashupJoey if you want to give his monthly challenge a go. Head on over to his Ko-fi and have a look. There's a post there about the challenge, and there's also the freebies for each month. We're August now, and there's another 4 months, I think, worth after August that he'll be putting up for you to do his Mash Up Joey challenge. So basically you just grab his freebie kit and then mash it with whatever you like to make something. Lots and lots of fun. Take care of yourselves, be good, and I will see you again soon. Bye.